What is going on, YouTube? Today I'm going to be talking to you about a topic that has fascinated me for quite a while, and what I'll be talking to you about today is your reticular activating system. That is basically your selective focus. That is what you pay attention to in a given moment, what is most important to you in a given moment in a frame of time. Now, this is a huge determinant in how you perceive things in your reality, because all of your senses are constantly picking up on so many different inputs. You're feeling the air on your skin, how your shirt feels, you're smelling things, you're hearing things, you're determining whether the dog you see on the street is a threat or not. Your reticular activation system chooses what to focus on and what to ignore. You can also think of this as saliency. So one of the most widely used examples of reticular activation system that I've come across is when you buy a new car and you start to see that model everywhere you go. Before, when you didn't own that car, you never saw that model anywhere on the streets. Now that you own that model, you seem to see it everywhere. Now, that model was always there on the streets. It's just that you didn't notice it before, just because it was outside of your focus, therefore outside of importance. So your reticular activation system is responsible for why when you're walking through a crowded area, you'll pick up pieces of your name. Your reticular activation system is responsible for why when you're driving down the highway and you're really hungry, you'll see food ads just jump out of you. Reticular activation system is why after a bad breakup, it feels like every song on the radio is about heartache. So your reticular activation system can also be applied to negative thoughts that you create about yourself. Now, let's say that you are feeling insecure about what people think about your weight. Let's say that you're walking down the street and you pass by a group of people having a conversation. When you pass by that group of people, you hear the word fat, and then this triggers a negative emotional response in you. You start to feel sad because other people were saying bad things about your weight. Now, what was really being talked about in that conversation was about how someone was infatuated with a new TV series. And because your reticular activation system was primed and tuned in to looking for reasons why people are looking down on your weight or why people are judging you about your weight, that is exactly what you picked up out of that conversation. So your reticular activation system is actually really important for honing in on and finding what you really want out of life. Now, there's this book called The Secret, where it basically claims that by powerfully focusing on whatever you want, you somehow attract and will that thing into your life. After learning about reticular activation system, I realized that there was another explanation for The Secret. Basically, all you're doing is just subconsciously aligning yourself with events, people, places, and things to achieve and attain what you really decided to focus on. Now, even though everything you needed to help get you what you wanted was always there, you didn't see it there before because it was outside of your selective focus. Now, here are some action steps involving the reticular activation system. Again, taking action is crucial. Nothing good will come out of your life unless you take action. So 1, write out your goal. Write out every single little step that you need to do in order to achieve that goal. Give it a deadline for when it must be finished. Make it as specific as possible. The clearer your vision towards your goal, the more likely that your reticular activation system is going to focus in on every single little thing that you need in order to help you achieve that goal. The easier it will be for your RAS to find or attract what you are looking for. Next, place these goals in a place where you will always see it. Refine and revise as needed. So reticular activation system is the reason why writing out your goals is so important. To prime your RAS to be able to find and see the things that you were looking for. To find the resources that were always there but weren't seen. So final thoughts, final opinions on this. I remember reading about athletes who would visualize their success before they achieved it. They would visualize crossing a finish line, or they would visualize dunking a hoop, or they would visualize performing flawlessly. Now, these athletes performed so much better than the athletes that did not visualize. I believe these athletes primed their reticular activation system to focus on the things they needed in order to succeed during crucial moments of the game or of the event. Whereas athletes who underperformed or even injured themselves set their reticular activation system on things that would undermine their performance. So I remember reading a story about a race car driver that spun out of control and almost hit the wall, but he ended up avoiding the wall. When he was asked about how he didn't crash, the race car driver said that when he was spinning out of control, his focus was on the road, but not hitting the wall. So basically, his RAS was tuned in on where he wanted to go over where he didn't want to go. So that being said, I'll leave you on this quote. Success is about focusing on what you do want over focusing on what you do not want.